Hi, it's Andrea from Walks as Well Andrea, and today I wanted to talk a little bit about something I have been seeing a lot lately on social media, and it's posts about how much easier it is to be fit and healthy in Europe than it is in the United States. And there have also been some replies to these claims, and some people have refuted it, and I just wanted to share my thoughts on that. And so to start off, I want to make a disclaimer. I definitely think that our environment influences how easy or hard it is for us to move. Availability of healthy food varies widely, walkability, things like that. They definitely make an impact. But, oftentimes we hear these stories. I was in Europe for 2 weeks or 10 days, and I ate all the food and I lost weight magically, right? And I recently have seen a lot of these posts, and again, as I said, I have also seen some people saying, wait a minute, let's slow down, let's really look at what is going on here. And so I just wanted to give my own perspective and my own thoughts on this. So, and a lot of times what is pointed out, of course, is yes, European cities are oftentimes very walkable. So oftentimes when we are in Europe, we get a lot of steps. Because we are actually tourists oftentimes, and we walk around cities to explore them, right? So it is not uncommon to get 20 to 30,000 steps a day if you explore a city. I think the last time I was in Paris, I got 40,000 steps in a day. And I don't get 40,000 steps regularly, right? That's a huge increase for me. So that is definitely a lot more movement. And I think as far as the claim goes that, in Europe, everybody, takes their wicker basket and goes grocery shopping at the local market and at the tiny little bakery, and and they get a ton of steps that way, and then they eat the good food, and they're just good to go. I think that that is also not necessarily the case. There are definitely places where you do go and walk and you buy your groceries with your wicker basket. In fact, when my aunt was alive and I visited her, that's exactly what I did. I took the wicker basket in the morning and I walked to the little bakery about 3/4 of a mile away, and I walked back home. To be honest, it was a very walkable suburb area, but I was probably the only person really walking there. There was a parking lot and people were driving there. I did not really see a lot of people walk. So definitely not everybody walks. And so, I do think that there are more markets and there are more little stores, and people definitely shop there. But in Europe, also a lot of people, I would say most people, do their major shopping obviously by car, right? And there are big grocery stores with big parking lots, and so the steps they get during the day, like doing these everyday activities, they get more. It's easier, but the people that are truly fit, I also want to say, from my experience, from my family and friends in Europe, they make a real effort, okay? It's more than just the steps they get. I think there is a real tradition in many parts of Europe of, community sporting groups that you sort of belong to your entire life. And so if you played basketball when you were young, there are many people that continue playing basketball, for example, for the rest of their life or for a really long time. if you were kayaking, if you were playing tennis, things like that. There are tons of community exercise classes. Again, that makes it easier for people to access, but I just want to point out that people actually really make an effort. It's not just the walking around, right? And so I think, if we do not have, for example, the environment to get our steps in, and again, I very much acknowledge that where we are located makes a huge difference, right? Is the neighborhood safe? Is it walkable? What's the weather like? Is it super hot? Is it super cold? Is it icy, right? I absolutely see that. But there are other ways we can add movement throughout the day, right? So, and I have my add a movement to your day, and I encourage people to move every 20, 30, 60 minutes throughout the day. And you can do that in a really small space, right? You can add some movement to in your cubicle. You can walk up and down the hallway, right? There are many ways. Is it ideal? No, right? There are easier situations, and there's definitely some of us have privilege, others don't, when it comes to how easy it is to add the movement to your day. But I think it is important to remember that, the people in Europe that stay healthy and fit, and clearly the rate of people being overweight and obese is smaller in Europe. It's unfortunately also growing, but the people that are healthy and fit, that I know, that I have observed, they all make a real effort, okay? It really doesn't happen magically to them. They are active throughout the day, as far as I can tell, and they have some formal exercise in their week. Okay, they may be cycling, a lot of them cycle, and they also go to the gym, they lift weights, they do Pilates classes, they do yoga, they, do general fitness classes. There are a lot of also sort of boot camp style classes, things like that. So, there's all of that. And I just think, it's not really helpful to think, if I just lived somewhere else, it would be so much easier. But I think the much better way to think about it is, okay, they move more, the fit people there move more, just like everywhere. And they, probably have a pretty balanced plan. So what can I do to add a balanced plan to my day in my circumstances, right? So the second thing is food, right? People oftentimes say the food is so much better and, so much healthier and everything. So, and, it is true that many places have outdoor markets and have fresh produce available. And again, I very much acknowledge that that's not everywhere in the United States or in other parts of the world. And again, that is a real privilege. But I also want to say, when you are on vacation and, maybe you eat in nicer restaurants and you want to explore you're probably going to eat healthier than if it's your everyday life. Oftentimes, I think that can be the case. And so yes, you may get the ice cream. And there's one point I actually do think stands out for me. I'm not an ice cream person. I actually don't eat ice cream very often, a couple times, if that, a year. And so the other day, actually, I ate some ice cream. And it was one scoop. It was a single scoop, but honestly, it was like 5 scoops in Europe. It was the size of 5 scoops, at least in Europe. And it was very heavy ice cream. I mean, I'm sure it was, filled. I mean, it was very heavy. And there was actually no way to finish it as one person, right? It looks beautiful, but it was an insane amount of ice cream. And so, one thing that is nice is if you are in Europe, you can get one scoop of ice cream and it's tiny. It's really a small scoop. It only costs about €1.50 or something. So you could even have 2 scoops. I would say 3 scoops would still be way less than my one monstrous scoop here. So that really does make a difference, right? Because if I say I want 1 scoop of ice cream and I get a small little scoop and I eat it, that probably, it's not that many calories, it's not that much sugar, it's not that much fat. But if I get the ginormous scoop here, so I think that is definitely something to be aware of. But for food in general, in Europe, there's junk food, right? So if you eat all the fried food and like convenience foods and junk food in Europe, you're also gonna gain weight, right? And so there are choices to be made. And I do think that it is important that we make those choices with whatever is available. So I think, for example, and I more and more take advantage of that. I buy a lot of frozen berries and I buy frozen vegetables, like a lot of frozen broccoli and things like that. And, and that really ensures that I have access to fruits and vegetables that were picked at their peak at all times, right? So there is no excuse. I'm also fortunate and privileged in the sense that I do buy fresh produce, fruits and vegetables all the time. And again, I do acknowledge that. But I do think, in Europe, there are different labeling laws, right? So, sometimes we also are told, the ketchup here has, that many more ingredients, and Europe only has this. But, sometimes if the European ketchup had to be labeled according to American laws, for example, it would also show more ingredients. I'm not saying that there aren't substances in some of our food that aren't in Europe. I get it. But, overall, I think it's not the magic in the food or that the food is always that much purer, right? It's really what people choose to eat. I have a very good friend. She lives in Munich and she is in her 70s. She is in phenomenal shape. She walks at least like 20,000 steps each day, sometimes more. She has been the exact same size her entire life. And, she is very conscious about what she eats. She travels a ton all over the world. And she always, goes to the grocery store or goes to the market and buys fruits and vegetables. She oftentimes travels as a mini little electrical pot and cooks some food in her hotel room because she doesn't really want to eat out. And she does drink beer, but, I've been to beer gardens with her, and I ordered a cheese that's like a brie cheese with butter, and you eat it with a pretzel. And I eat this like once every 5 years or something, and I ordered it, and she was shocked because she knows that I watch what I eat, or I make healthy choices. And she's like, oh, you're eating this is like saturated fat, and I haven't had this since I was like 5 years old. I said, well, it's okay to have this once, in a while. It's probably okay to have this, a couple times a year, right? I mean, it's not gonna do anything. But so, so she's an example of someone who is in great shape, who, is very fit and active, but it is a conscious choice. It doesn't just happen, right? I mean, she doesn't go to the grocery store and buy the packaged food, which there is plenty of in Europe as well, right? She makes the choice to get the fresh produce and protein, and so I just wanted to make those points. And I think, let this empower us to make the best choices that we can. And again, it may look different, right? It may look that we get our steps on a walking pad or treadmill, or some YouTube videos, or some other ways, right? It may look that we add movement breaks to our day. And again, these can be really simple. So it could be a minute of jumping jacks, of squats, of jump squats. You could add some resistance training. You could add some bicep curls. You can do so many different things. And when it comes to food, again, I think we can make healthy choices by keeping it simple, right? Simple proteins that you enjoy, prep them if possible. I think, roasting some chicken, or some fish, like sauteing some fish or steaming some fish, and then vegetables. And I keep those in my fridge, so I can put together. I like to make like bowls, so I love arugula, so I like to put arugula on the bottom, and then maybe some roasted vegetables and some protein on top, and it's wonderful, right? It's an easy meal. It's really fast food, but it's healthy, right? You made it yourself. And then the same thing again, using your freezer to really fill it up with frozen fruits, vegetables, things like that, I think is really helpful. So instead of saying, I wish I lived in Europe and everything would be easy and magically I would be in great shape, let's work with what we have and make the best of it. So keep moving, keep making healthy choices. Bye now.